I stood outside St. Alara Medical Center with my hands clenched so hard my nails left little half-moons in my palms. Spring smelled like rain and magnolia, and light broke into glitter on the glass doors, but none of it touched me. Inside, my husband, Adrian Miles, lay under bright machines that spoke in beeps and warnings, his body fighting an enemy we never saw approach. I am a nurse. I spend my days stitching fear back into something human, but today, I could not fix the one person who built my life's quiet. The doctors said we needed a miracle with a name and a match. Adrian has no family to call, no branches to climb back through. And then, while I was drowning in the courtyard, I overheard a stranger say a sentence that slammed oxygen into my lungs. He looks exactly like a man from Willow Ridge. Hope is stubborn. It arrives uninvited. I picked it up with shaking hands and decided to follow it, no matter what it asked me to risk. The bench was iron and wood, painted a cheerful green that felt a little cruel. I sat there anyway, because the air outside was the only place I could breathe without hearing the relentless metronome of the monitors. St. Alara Medical Center rose like clean geometry against the Riverton sky. Glass, steel, promise. I had walked families through those doors for years, spoken in calm tones, translated acronyms into something a heart can carry. None of that training helped with the raw fact that my husband might not see another spring. Adrian was never dramatic. He was steady, the way a lighthouse is steady. The kind of man who could fix a door, remember a birthday, and make a meal that tasted like memory. He built bookshelves from scrap oak and left small notes in obvious places, the kind that said nothing and everything. Back soon. Proud of you. Tea on the stove. He believed in work, in kindness, in the muscle memory of gratitude. 6 months ago, no, I must say it correctly, half a year ago, we were building plans more fragile than we knew. A bigger place one day, a backyard with too much clover, maybe a dog that would steal socks and our patience. Then fatigue wrapped itself around Adrian like wet wool. He shrugged it off at first. Long days, long nights, nothing a weekend of sleep couldn't heal. Except the exhaustion stayed. It grew heavy. Bruises bloomed where nothing should have struck him. The breath left his chest in short, panicked waves at 2 a.m. I am a nurse. I know the shapes fear makes. I pushed. We saw a specialist with hands that looked like music, careful and precise. Tests stacked into more tests. The verdict, when it came, felt like a door slamming in a quiet house. Severe marrow failure. His own body had dimmed the factory that makes life's red tide. Without a donor with the right map written in their cells, the odds were a lesson in math I refused to learn. You'll get through this, I told him, and I meant it like a prayer and a lie stitched together. He smiled with that stubborn tenderness I fell in love with, and squeezed my fingers as if the pressure could anchor both of us to the same shore. Adrian grew paler. His beautiful hands trembled when he lifted a spoon. The man who could carry a dresser by himself now needed help to stand. He joked about hospital socks, about finally joining the shaved head club without the cool to match, about how I was bossy when I pretended not to be. He tried to protect me from his own diminishing. That is the worst kind of kindness. It breaks on your tongue because you cannot swallow it without tasting its cost. The afternoon the doctor pulled me aside, his words were gentle, then blunt. If we did not find a compatible donor soon, we were no longer talking about months and might be measuring in weeks. I nodded without trusting my voice. I walked to the courtyard where the magnolia trees strewed waxy petals like lost letters. I pressed my face into the corner of a stone wall and tried to cry quietly. There is no quiet way to do that. That is when I heard them. 2 orderlies on break, paper cups and easy voices, talking about people I knew by room number, not by name. That guy in the unit, one said, the one with the calm eyes, he looks exactly like a man from Willow Ridge, spooked me first time I walked in. Willow Ridge, a small mountain town tucked a couple of hours from Riverton, all switchbacks and old gas stations with hand-painted signs. The word slid into my chest like a key. People resemble one another, faces repeat, but hope does not ask for proof before it knocks. It just starts banging. I stood there, palms flat on cool stone, and let the possibility find me. Adrian grew up without a map. Foster homes, careful the way you are careful when nothing is yours for long. No birth certificate with answers, no names to follow, no aunt who kept a box of photos. He once told me, voice soft in our kitchen's blue light, "I don't go looking because I don't know what I'd do with the truth." I had respected that boundary because love without respect is brittle. But the boundary shifted the minute his life hung from a thread I could see and name. That night I sat by his bed and watched the gentle rise and fall of his chest. Machines hummed, the curtain breathed with air from the vent, and the clock made time into a chore. I whispered into the dim, "I am going to fix this." He slept on, a crease between his brows like a question he didn't want to ask. I held his hand and imagined roads. The map drew itself. Riverton out to the ridge, a town with one diner and a church that rings on the hour. I did not know who I was looking for. I only knew that I could not live with myself if I did not try. Morning came washed in hospital light. I signed for emergency leave with ink that shook. My supervisor hugged me like we were sisters and told me to go, to call if I needed anything, to bring him back. I packed a bag that made no sense. 2 shirts, 1 sweater, a photograph of Adrian laughing so hard his eyes crinkled. I kissed my husband's forehead. He looked at me, puzzled and amused. "You look like a storm in a good dress," he murmured. "Rest," I said, which is wife speak for trust me. And then I walked until the sliding doors opened with that soft sigh, as if the hospital itself approved. The highway unspooled under me, long gray ribbons heading east. The city fell behind, replaced by fields and then hills, then solid old mountains wearing trees like armor. Willow Ridge announced itself with a wooden sign gone soft with rain and time. The main street held a feed store, a cafe, a barbershop with a striped pole that still spun because tradition, and a hardware store that smelled like childhood and tin. I parked in front of a general store that sold everything and nothing you can list. Inside, an older woman rang up nails and a newspaper for a man in muddy boots. I showed her Adrian's photo and said, "I'm looking for someone who looks like this." Her eyes widened, then softened the way eyes do when a memory wakes. "You want Noah Granger," she said. "Lives out on Old Quarry Road past the creek and the 2 sycamores that look like they're arguing. Same jaw, same eyes. You tell him May sent you." I thanked her with all the gratitude I could fit into a voice and drove toward the sycamores. The sky thought about rain and decided to wait. The road narrowed and lifted, turned, and then let me down into a little pocket of land with a weathered farmhouse hunched like a secret. A rusted swing traced lazy arcs in the breeze. A blue dog barked once as if to say, "Decide." I knocked. The door opened on a man who looked like a sentence I'd been trying to finish. Tall, shoulders built by work, hair the color of straw left in sun, eyes so close to Adrian's that my knees stuttered. He studied me with a stillness I recognized, the kind people develop when life has taught them not to expect good surprises. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice rough like gravel is rough until rain smooths it. I held out my phone with the photo. "This is my husband. His name is Adrian Miles. He is very sick, and you," I swallowed, "you look like him." He took the phone. Time stretched out and held its breath. The man rubbed his thumb over the image as if truth could be coaxed by heat. "I'll be," he whispered. He looked up, something like recognition and grief and wonder in his gaze. "Name's Noah," he said. "Noah Granger." He stepped back and opened the door wider. "You'd better come in." Noah's house smelled like coffee and sawdust and the stubborn cleanliness of someone who learned to take care of his own life early. The kitchen window framed a slice of field and trees, a world where seasons kept their promises. He poured me water without asking if I wanted anything, then sat across the table and slid the phone back to me. "You said he's sick," Noah said. Not an empty sorry, not a question shaped like pity. A simple doorway opened. "His marrow is failing," I answered. "He needs a donor who matches." I methodically explained what matching means to a body that wants to live. I did not tell Noah how the nights feel when you think the morning might not find you married. I did not tell him about the way Adrian says my name in his sleep like a person coming up from deep water. Noah listened without breaking the thread of my voice. When I finished, he let a long minute pass, as if testing the weight of the next thing he would say. "My mother," he began, and the way he said mother sounded like a word learned late. "She had me, then a few more. Names came and went. She left one boy at a hospital, papers signed, goodbye. I was small, but I remember the shape of it. The house felt like it exhaled after she walked out. I always wondered where he went." He glanced toward the window, then back at me. "Guess wondering's over." I held the edge of the table to keep the room from tilting. "Noah," I said carefully, "if there's any chance, I'll get tested," he said, cutting through the need for persuasion like a good blade through rope. "Today. Now." He stood so fast his chair made a surprised sound. "Tell me where to go." I did not expect the speed of that yes. I had prepared for resistance, for suspicion, for the long, brittle conversations you have with people who owe you nothing. But sometimes the universe chooses a straight line instead of a maze. I called the transplant coordinator from his kitchen, explained the small miracle we were trying to usher into the world, and got Noah on the schedule within the hour. Rural hospitals move slower. Necessity moves fast. We drove behind one another, my little car leading, his old pickup following at a respectful distance, like a guardian. The road back to town felt different with a maybe in the passenger seat, fidgeting with the radio, asking if we might please arrive with good news. At St. Ilara's outpatient wing, the nurses did what nurses do best, turned chaos into process. Blood draw, forms, quiet competence. Noah joked with the phlebotomist like a man trying not to scare the deer away. While we waited, I brought Noah to Adrian's room. I warned him about the wires, the pallor, the thinness. I did not warn him about the feeling of walking into a future that suddenly belongs to you. Adrian sat up when we entered, confusion running across his face like a cloud. He looked from me to Noah, back to me, then back to the man with his eyes. "Adrian," I said softly, stepping to his side. "This is Noah." For a long heartbeat, no one moved. Then Noah cleared his throat. "I think," he said, voice low, "we're family." Adrian's hand reached of its own accord. Noah took it, careful and sure. There are moments when you can hear the click of something broken settling back into place. This was one of them. I turned away to give them a small privacy in a room that has very little of that word to spare. I stared at the window blinds and tried not to cry because if I started, I might not stop for a week. A tech peeked in with a can-do smile and efficient apologies about timing. The test would take hours, maybe a day. "I wait," Noah said, as if the suggestion that he could go anywhere else were laughable. He settled into a chair like he was learning a new shape of patience. We spent the afternoon building a bridge out of conversation, plank by plank. Noah told us about Willow Ridge, about winters that bite and summers that smell like cut hay, about a dog named Blue who adopted him and never looked back. He works on engines, on fences, on lives that need steady hands. He drinks his coffee black because cream is for treats, and he reads whatever books the librarian sets aside because she knows what he will like better than he does. Adrian told him about Riverton, about the little shop where he sands wood until it forgives him for the saw marks, about the way our neighborhood comes alive on Friday evenings in June with grills and gossip. He told him about me, though I was standing right there, how I organize chaos for a living and still somehow forget where I left my keys. They compared childhoods without the false nostalgia that wants to make pain pretty. Noah's mother was a door that swung, not a room you could rest in. Adrian's childhood was a series of houses that never learned his favorite breakfast. Both learned how to hold their own sadness without letting it leak onto the floor where someone else has to mop it up. When the hematologist finally came in, her smile arrived before her words. "We don't get to say this often," she said, voice warm and precise, "but you are a strong match." She looked at Noah. "One of the best we've seen in a long while." Joy isn't always loud. Sometimes it is a quiet collapsing, a deep exhale that carries months of dread out of a body in one long stream. My legs went watery. I gripped the bedrail. Adrian covered his face with his hands and laughed a sound that was almost a sob. Noah blinked hard and then nodded, as if he had been asked to lift something heavy and wanted to show he could. "When do we do this?" he asked. "Soon," the doctor said. "Very soon." That night the hospital felt less like a labyrinth and more like a bridge. I found Noah a couch in the family lounge and a blanket that had seen better days but would do. He stretched out and stared at the ceiling like a man trying to memorize new constellations. I sat by Adrian's bed and held his hand while he slept, his fingers warmer than they had been in weeks. Outside, Riverton's lights stitched quiet patterns on the floor. I let hope take up real space on the chair beside me, and didn't shoo it away when it put its feet up. Morning came wearing the tired coffee of a night shift. Paperwork multiplied, consent forms marched, labs blinked. The transplant team moved like a symphony that had rehearsed for months to play this exact song. Noah signed where they asked him to sign. He cracked a joke when the room needed a softening, and shut up when the room needed quiet. He called May from the general store to tell her he might be out of pocket a few days, and I heard her say, "Do right," which is the kind of blessing I wish made its way into more church liturgies. Before they wheeled Adrian down the hall, he grabbed Noah's hand again. "Thank you," he whispered, 2 words that felt small for the size of the gift. "You gave me a brother," Noah said back. And it was not a line, it was the truth, standing in a plain shirt. They rolled away. I followed until a nurse with kind eyebrows said, "This is where you wait." Waiting is its own science. You learn it on planes, in lobbies, in childhood. You learn it all over again when someone you love is in a room you cannot enter. I sat with my phone on the table, screen face down, because I could not bear to see it and could not bear not to see it. I counted breaths. I answered texts from people who used the word prayers. And I found that I liked their voices better when they used that word than when they tried to fix it. What came back hours later was a blur, relief in the surgeon's eyes, a nurse saying the words as expected, the feeling of a cement block being carefully lifted off my chest. Noah was pale and stubbornly fine, insisting he didn't need anything while accepting juice because it made the nurses smile. Adrian slept, a different kind of sleep. The kind that looks like a truce. I pressed my forehead to the cool edge of the doorway and let myself cry properly for exactly 1 minute. Then I wiped my face, kissed my husband's temple, and whispered a thank you to every ordinary kindness that had carried us to this moment. Recovery happens the way mourning happens on a gray day. Slowly, then all at once. The first sign was small and therefore enormous. Adrian's cheeks warmed from paper to peach. His lips found their shape again. He squeezed my fingers without trembling. The machines were still there, steady in their surveillance, but they no longer felt like predators. They felt like lifeguards. Noah heeled in the easy chair next to the window, making grimaces every time he shifted, and then pretending he hadn't. He laughed it off when I scolded him for the pretend part. "Been worse," he said, and it sounded like a ledger he keeps privately. He brought the dog from Willow Ridge in a photo and taped it to the side of the monitor, because even machines deserve to look at something friendly. We learned a new routine. Mornings belonged to labs and quiet optimism. Midday belonged to naps that dissolved into conversations. Evenings belonged to the game of making hospital food taste like a choice. I bribed the night shift with bakery muffins and received in return the kind of attention you cannot put on a chart. People took care of us because we were our best selves around them. Fear can turn you into a razor. We tried very hard not to cut anybody. Noah and Adrian began talking in the shorthand of brothers who were catching up in a hurry. They searched each other's faces for the signatures time had left. They compared old injuries like men comparing weather. Noah showed Adrian the small scar near his elbow from a fence lesson learned the hard way. Adrian lifted his shirt to reveal the faint white line from a childhood appendectomy, the one good souvenir from a hospital visit he barely remembered. They began to string a family across the gap years had carved. Noah's mother, a woman held together by trying and failing, came into focus as a person, not a villain. There were other children. Some stayed, some left. Some became phone numbers written in pencil. Noah had spent most of his childhood assembling a home from whatever was at hand. Kindnesses from neighbors, summer jobs that bought school shoes, a librarian who smuggled him into worlds where boys kept promises and mothers did not disappear. Adrian listened, eyes bright, and said softly that he knew the art of building a life out of borrowed rooms and borrowed last names. One afternoon I brought in the wooden frame Adrian had made for our front hall, a simple piece of ash with a tiny brass plate that reads, "Come home." I hung it on the corkboard beside the vitals chart. A nurse asked if it was allowed. "It is now," I said. "Rules matter. So does the humane breaking of them." The day Adrian took his first steps down the hall without the walker drew quiet applause from people who have clapped for hundreds of first steps and still find each one entirely new. He moved like a man who had negotiated with gravity and signed an agreement. We passed the window where the courtyard magnolia cast green shadows on concrete. I told him about the overheard sentence that sent me to Willow Ridge. He laughed, then his eyes went wet. "I keep thinking," he whispered, "about how close we came to missing him." "You didn't," I said. "You do not miss what is yours when you go looking." We were discharged on a bright day that smelled like rain waiting its turn. Noah followed us home in his truck, blues collar hanging from the rear view like a charm. Our house, the small, stubborn place on the edge of Riverton, felt different the second we opened the door. The rocking chair Adrian had made me for our first anniversary waited on the porch like a witness. Inside, our kitchen was exactly as we had left it, which is to say there were 2 mugs in the sink and a grocery list on the counter that began with lemons. We did slow things first. Sat, breathed, watched the bird make a meal from the feeder with the concentration of a poet. Noah walked through the rooms as if measuring a cathedral built from modest wood. He paused at the bookshelf of Adrian's making and ran a finger along the smooth edge. "You do good work," he said. And it was not only about shelves. Evenings slid into a new pattern. I cooked what Adrian's recovering appetite asked for. Soup with too much garlic, and bread with enough butter to make a doctor frown, then relent. Noah told stories about Willow Ridge, about spring storms that come in like an argument and leave like a promise, about a neighbor who insists pie is a food group and can make you agree by the end of the slice. Adrian told Noah about Riverton's market in late summer, when tomatoes have the audacity to taste like sunlight, about the old man on our street who fixes bicycles and hearts with the same set of tools. One night, as light slipped away like a polite guest, Noah pulled a small object from his pocket, a pocket knife, scarred and cherished, initials carved by a hand that must have belonged to his father. "It's what I've got," he said, voice even. He wasn't much to write home about, but this was his. It kept me company when I was a kid. It should keep you company now. Adrian took it carefully, like it might break from being seen. He didn't say thank you, not right away. He leaned in and wrapped his arms around the brother he had just learned to name. The calls and cards began to arrive, from Willow Ridge, from Riverton, from people who had found us in the liminal space where fear and hope share a bench. A farmer mailed a note on ledger paper. "Family is not a straight line. Hold fast." A teacher wrote to say that she had told her class our story, and that they had made drawings of magnolia trees and iron benches and 2 men shaking hands. I put the drawings on the fridge and cried like a person finally allowed to. Adrian's hair began to return in soft, stubborn spirals. He stood in the garage one afternoon and touched the lathe like greeting an old friend. He ran his hand over a plank of walnut and looked at me with a question. "Not today," I said gently. "Tomorrow." He nodded like a man who has learned that patience is not surrender. It is strategy. On a Saturday, we drove out to Willow Ridge in a caravan that felt like a parade for three. The mountains sat heavy and old, watching us the way elders watch children. May at the general store hugged me so hard my ribs learned a new song. She hugged Noah like she had raised him, which, in patchwork ways, she had. A little girl with braids asked if she could pet Blue, and then asked if Adrian was a cowboy. He said yes, because sometimes the truest thing you can do is make a child's eyes light up. That night we gathered behind Noah's house with a small fire and the big sky. Someone brought a guitar. Someone else brought a pie that won an argument I didn't know I was having. We passed paper plates and stories. Noah looked at Adrian across the fire and asked 1,000 questions without speaking all of them. Adrian answered in the same language. I leaned into the space where their new bond warmed the air. When the last ember sighed into ash, I realized I was not waiting for catastrophe to take something back. The fear was still present. Fear is loyal, but it had taken a seat in the corner and agreed not to interrupt. I looked at Adrian's profile against the dark and thought, this is what healed feels like when it is still stitching. On the drive back to Riverton the next day, Adrian touched my wrist lightly. "You went looking," he said. "I did," I whispered. "And you found him." "We found us," I said. He nodded, and we drove on, the road unwinding like a promise we intended to keep. The first quiet days at home were a blessing and a trap. Blessing because the house exhaled and made space for laughter again. Trap because calm gives bureaucracy time to find you. The envelope arrived with the morning mail, white and cheerful, addressed to Adrian like a letter from an old friend. I opened it at the counter while coffee hissed and the kitchen light made a small sun of the kettle. Denial, such a short word for a machine built to grind. The insurer had decided that portions of Adrian's care were non-essential and out of network. The numbers, no, the words for numbers I refused to write, were the kind that reframe futures. My hands stayed steady because my hands always stay steady when lightning strikes. Inside, a different weather gathered. I called the case manager, who spoke in policy but not in people. I listened without interrupting, then laid out the facts in sentences that clicked into place. I have learned that you do not win with volume, you win with receipts. "Still," she said, "still, your appeal may take weeks. Weeks, when the calendar in my bones insists we have only so many good days to spend." Noah found me at the table with the letter, my voice like glass that has decided not to break. He read, jaw set, eyes going winter. "We did the impossible," he said softly. "Now we are arguing about paper." "We will do the possible too," I answered, piece by piece. At St. Elara that afternoon, I asked to see the billing advocate. The office was small, a plant trying its best by the window, a stack of folders that looked like a toppling city. The advocate wore the tired kindness of someone who holds too many strangers' worries in her lap. I gave her the denial, the policy manual bookmarked with sticky flags, the printouts, the letters, the timeline drawn neat as a runway. She paged through, eyebrows knitting, then rising. "You did your homework," she murmured. "I live here," I said simply. We walked through appeals and exceptions. We built, line by firm line, a case so clean a boardroom would not know where to bite it. She promised to escalate. I believed her not because she said it, but because of the way her hands squared the stack, as if straightness could win a fight. When I stepped back into the corridor, I heard my name. "Emily?" A nurse from cardiac waved me over with a look that asked if I had eaten. I had not. She pressed a container into my hands and said, "Soup, talk later." I did not realize how hungry I was until the first spoonful reprimanded me gently for forgetting I had a body. We were halfway down the main hall when a voice carried, too loud for hospital talk. A man in a suit, visitor, not staff, complained into his phone about people gaming the system and sob stories that grow legs. He never looked at me, but shame moves fast even when it is not addressed to your face. My cheeks flushed hot and then cool. I could have let it pass, let him keep his performance for the person on the line. Instead, I stopped. "Sir," I said, calm as the part of the sea that hides its riptide. He glanced up, surprised. "There is no game here, only bloodwork and steel spines. If you have complaints, take them to the desk and say them like a person who knows what it costs to be sick." He stared, mouth a little open, then nodded, chastened without quite knowing why. I did not give him the satisfaction of further conversation. I turned and kept moving. The nurse beside me squeezed my elbow, proud the way older sisters get proud when younger sisters do not ask for permission. That evening, St. Alara's communications office left a voicemail with warm edges. They wanted to highlight a story of grit and community. Our story, packaged for donors, for social posts, for a gala with candlelight and a silent auction. I listened twice, and then a third time to be certain I wasn't mishearing. We are human. We love to make a stage, but I am particular about which stages get us and why. I called back and said we would consider it if it bought change. Not attention. Change. Paid leave for donors who give marrow or organs, without the acrobatics that makes generosity a punishment. Fee forgiveness for transplant recipients who fall into the gap the policy writers cannot be bothered to cover. Expanded drives for the registry that had once been our entire hope. The communications director inhaled. That is ambitious. So is staying alive, I said. Pick one. Noah listened from the porch that night while Adrian dozed, fatigue washing in and out like a tide that respects no clock. He tipped his chair, eyes on the kind of moon that makes you believe in second chances. "You sure you want to stand up in a room full of people who wear their money like armor?" "I have a nurse voice," I said. "It slices without spilling blood." He grinned, the first true grin I had seen on his face since the hospital couch. "Then I am coming. I want to see armor learn humility." We planned the days the way you plan a garden. What to water, what to leave to the rain, what to prune before it steals from the roots. Appeals filed, letters sent, a call to my union rep who knows where policy hides and how to pull it into light. A call to the local paper who had run too many stories about despair and needed one about accountability with teeth. We did not wait for help to arrive. We became the kind of help that starts fires in the right places. Adrian watched me work and said, "You are radiant when you are dangerous." I laughed because he is right. Rage does not suit me. Precision does. 2 mornings later, St. Alara called to say we had won the first appeal. Not everything. Enough to shift the floor under our feet from shale to something that holds. I thanked the advocate and then, after hanging up, let out a sound that belongs to private rooms and long fights. Noah whooped like a kid who has found the best hill and the fastest sled. Adrian reached for my hand and murmured, "Bring that voice to the gala." "I intend to," I said, and the magnolia outside lifted its glossy leaves like applause. The cafeteria at St. Alara is a democracy. Surgeons with their coats, custodians with their keys, families with their pleas, patients with their soft socks. Everyone waits in the same line for coffee that is better than it used to be, and pie that is worse only if you never needed it. I like rooms where hierarchies sit down. I was stirring sugar into a paper cup when I saw her reflection in the window. A woman standing too still, watching me from the corner where the vending machine hums like a lullaby. Late 40s or early 50s, tidy in a way that suggests a constant attempt to present as untroubled. Hands worrying the strap of a purse as if the leather had done something wrong. "Emily?" she asked when I turned. My name in her mouth sounded borrowed. "Yes," I said, polite in the way you are polite with strangers who know your name inside a hospital. "I am Leanne," she said, and swallowed. "Leanne Granger." The surname struck like a tuning fork. She watched me feel it. "Noah's mother," she added, as if the title required a soft cushion. In a different story, I might have embraced her and said the scripts people want to hear. You did your best, it was another time, we all break. Life isn't always built from different stories. "How did you find me?" I asked instead. "May at the store," she said, cheeks coloring. She thought I ought to know what is happening." "What is happening," I said, even tone, "is that your sons found one another, and one of them saved the other." She blinked. Sons. The plural wobble of it made a small tear in her composure. "I made mistakes," she began, eyes on a point beyond my shoulder, the way people do when they want to talk past you, not to you. "I was young and drowning, and there was no one for you," I finished, because I am not a stranger to the way poverty and pain collude. "And then there was no one for them." The room had grown quiet around us, or perhaps I had stopped hearing its usual clatter. Leanne's hands tightened on the purse strap until the leather squeaked. "I want to see them," she said, and for the first time her voice cracked into a human tone I could recognize. "I want to make something right." "Making right," I said gently, "is a verb, not a visit." Noah appeared behind her as if summoned by the gravity of his own past. He took in the scene, me, the woman, the window, in one catalog glance. His face did not shift, but the air did. "Ma," he said, a word that had to climb a long hill to reach his mouth. Leanne turned, tears already gathered and waiting for their cue. "Noah," she whispered, "look at you." She reached as if to touch his cheek. He stepped back, not cruelly, simply accurately. The hand fell, unrealized. "We are not doing this in a cafeteria," Noah said, the steel in his voice covered in velvet out of respect for the public square. "If you have something to say it honest." "I left a boy," she said, the words landing like small stones. "I left him, and I have tried to live with the shape of that in my chest ever since. His name is Adrian," I said. "You can call him by his name." She flinched. "Adrian," she repeated, and the words softened her face. "I want to see him. To tell him." "To tell him what?" Noah asked, his arms folding without swagger, only self-protection. "That you were not ready? That you wanted someone else to do the hard parts? You do not get to arrive when the hard parts are over and ask for the bright ones." "I know," she said, and to her credit she did not try to disagree. "I know exactly what I do not get." The cafeteria had resumed, cautiously, its ordinary music. Trays slid, chairs scraped. Someone laughed, 2 tables over, in a way that made me grateful for resilience. I thought about keeping Leanne away, about guarding our fragile peace like a mother dog guards pups. But protection that calcifies turns to prison. I also thought about Adrian, who believes in second chances the way gardeners believe in rain after drought. "Here are the terms," I said softly. "You will apologize without explanation. You will not borrow their pain for your absolution. You will listen more than you speak. If you can do that, you can see him." Leanne nodded, shoulders slumping as if the permission itself weighed something. Noah studied her face as if searching for architecture instead of decoration. "All right," he said finally. "But if you reach for him before he reaches for you, we are done." We walked together through corridors that hold more miracles than anyone bothers to count. At the door to Adrian's room, I paused. "He may say no," I told Leanne. "If he does, that is also grace. It is a clear path. Do you understand?" "I do," she whispered, and the purse strap finally stopped its small, frantic squeak. Adrian was sitting up, reading a paperback he had found on the free cart. A mystery where good triumphs not because it is loud, but because it is patient. He looked up. Noah entered first and stood at the foot of the bed, a sentinel. I followed. Leanne stepped in last, quiet as a question. "Adrian," Noah said, voice even. "This is Leanne." Adrian's eyes moved to her face. Time did a strange thing. It stretched and turned, looping back through years he did not remember, touching his cheek in the form of a woman who did not stay. He did not smile. He did not narrow his eyes. He nodded. "I am sorry," Leanne said, hands empty at her sides. "No reasons, just the truth. I am sorry. You deserved better than the story I gave you. Silence is a test. You can fail it by rushing, or you can let it become useful." Adrian closed the book on his finger to keep his place, and then placed it beside him. "Thank you," he said. He looked at Noah. "Do you want to sit?" He gestured to the chair. He looked at Leanne. "You can sit too." She did not cry theatrically. She cried like a person who knows what humility costs. She told him small things that did not try to repair anything they could not repair. What September smelled like in the kitchen of the apartment where he had been born. The name of the nurse who hummed. The way his hair had stood up like a garden needing tending. She did not ask for forgiveness. She did not use the words mother or son as an entitlement. She told the truth she could bear and left the rest in the air between them where it could either dissipate or distill. Adrian listened. At one point he reached for Noah's wrist, and Noah, without looking away from Leanne, slid his hand into Adrian's. Two grown men, holding hands like brothers in a hospital room while a woman tried to make a new kind of peace with herself. Not the redemption arc people crave. Better, the honest beginning of a boundary that might one day allow a bridge. Afterward, when Leanne had gone, Noah sat down hard and blew out a breath that trembled. "You all right?" I asked. "No," he said, truthful as weather. "And also, yes." Adrian smiled, small and sideways. "We can carry both." We ate cafeteria pie at the window and watched the parking lot drama that is its own theater. People relieved, people furious, people lost and found. I felt the shape of something settling. Not forgiveness handed out like party favors, but dignity chosen and defended. You can build a life on that. The gala was held in the kind of ballroom that has never seen daylight. Chandeliers interpreted generosity. Round tables stood dressed like they wanted to be asked to prom. A string quartet made the air feel expensive. St. Ilara's logo glowed on a wall like a brand talking to itself. We arrived early so I could walk the room the way I walk a patience chart, finding the lines, the gaps, the places to breathe. Adrian wore a simple suit he had owned for years. It fit better now that his body had remembered how to carry itself. Noah wore a jacket that did not quite trust him. He looked excellent anyway, the stubborn grace of his jaw working on the fabric until it obeyed. The communications director greeted us with relief disguised as competence. "We are so grateful you said yes," she said. "There will be a short video, then a conversation on stage. Light, uplifting, necessary," I corrected gently. We agreed to necessary. She nodded, making a note she would later describe as host guidance, and I would later describe as warning label. The lights softened. The room found its hush. The video played. A voiceover spoke the familiar alchemy of hardship into inspiration. Images. The Magnolia Courtyard. A nurse's hand on a shoulder. A corridor where hope and despair share coffee. Our faces, lit well, eyes shining. I do not mind stories being told. I mind stories being used. We took the stage. A host with a flawless smile began with perfect questions, the kind that let people feel good without feeling implicated. I answered once, twice, then set my shoulders. "May I add something?" I asked. It was not really a question. I spoke the appeal we had won and the ones we were still fighting. I named the donors who give marrow and time and wages, and the way our systems punish that nobility with red tape and lost pay. I said the words paid leave out loud in a room where they are often only thought privately. I said the words fee forgiveness and registry expansion and rural access. I said very clearly that if the hospital wanted our story, the price was policy. The room did the thing rooms do when they are asked to feel and to act. It hesitated. Then it leaned forward. Noah sat with his hands quiet, eyes on the faces of men in suits who were not used to being looked at like that. Adrian watched me the way you watch a lit match near dry kindling, proud and nervous, and ready with a bucket if needed. The hospital's chief executive, a man whose tie cost what some families spend on a month of groceries, approached the stage at the end, smile held on with intention. "Saint Ilara," he said into the mic, "has always put patients first." I smiled back like a nurse smiles at a resident who has not yet learned where to stand. "Then prove it," I said calmly. "Tonight." Silence. It lasted an elegant beat too long. Then, to his credit, or his instinct for survival, the executive nodded. "We will establish a fund for donor leave," he said, eyes scanning the room to be sure the words landed as charity, not as duty. "We will expand our registry drives. We will review our billing for transplant patients and make changes within the quarter." Polite applause broke, then grew teeth. People stood. Not a standing ovation. Those are for performances. This was a decision. The quartet began to play again because no one had told them not to. Afterward, donors approached with cards and complicated confessions. Nurses came with quick hugs and longer thank yous. One of the board members, who had worn skepticism like a boutonniere, said, "You were direct." He meant difficult. "I was precise," I answered. He nodded, chastened without quite seeing the lesson, and drifted away. In the lobby, under light that flattened everyone into the same expensive shade, a woman in a blue dress stopped me. "My sister gave marrow last year," she said, voice thick. "Her boss cut her hours. She never got them back. I am going to use my own voice now." She squeezed my hand the way women squeeze other women when no one else is looking. "Thank you." We found the night air. The city smelled like rain planning a small surprise. Noah let out a low whistle. "You took their mic," he said, wonder and a little reverence in it. "They lent it," I corrected. "I used it correctly." Adrian laughed, head tilted back. That sound I would collect in jars if I could. "You were a storm in a good dress." "I told you," I said. At home, the mailbox held nothing dramatic. A flyer about gutter cleaning, a coupon for pizza we do not like, an envelope from the insurer acknowledging receipt of our second appeal. Progress, even in small paper steps, is still direction. We climbed the porch steps, the rocking chair waiting with its evergreen patience. Inside, I placed the event program on the counter and wrote across it in pen, "No is a full sentence. Yes is a contract." I taped it above the desk. The next morning, St. Ilara's press office called early, breathless. The executive had committed on stage, yes, but he now needed reasonable timelines. I proposed immediate actions disguised as pilots and long-term changes disguised as inevitabilities. They agreed to most, balked at a few. We negotiated until the coffee went cold and then made more. The story had moved from room to policy. This is the transfer I like best. Later, when the house was quiet and I could hear the small arguments of sparrows in the hedge, Noah stopped in the doorway to the kitchen. "You changed the air in there," he said. "We changed it," I replied. "You, sitting steady. Adrian, being brave and alive. Me, saying the thing into a microphone that was never built for my voice." He nodded, satisfied. "Next time they try to borrow your story without renting the spine that goes with it, charge double." I laughed. "Deal." We ate leftover pie for breakfast because rules bend for joy. Adrian took a small slice and declared it perfect because it was ours. Noah raised his fork in a salute toward the magnolia that had watched us grieve and now watched us grow. Outside, a delivery truck rumbled past. Late but determined. Life. Continuing. Willow Ridge High School's gym was polished within an inch of its life and still smelled faintly like victories from 20 winters ago. Banners drooped, proud and dusty. A row of folding tables held swabs, forms, hand sanitizer, and a plate of brownies that had made 3 people sign up just by existing. This was the first registry drive after the gala, and we had decided to host it where the town already knew how to show up. May ran a check-in table like a general with good manners. The school custodian strutted around in a sash he had fashioned from caution tape that read, "Line starts here," and no one dared disobey. A local quartet tuned absent-mindedly in the corner, playing the kind of standards that make you feel braver than you are. Noah stood beside me in a shirt he'd ironed with his palms, sleeves rolled, jaw resolved. Adrian took a seat near the water jugs, color good, eyes bright, a soft mask at the ready because the world still needed to be negotiated. Leanne came too, quiet and useful, refilling pens and wiping down clipboards without asking for a medal. We had agreed to simple terms, and all of us were keeping them. We opened the doors. People came, farmers with weather in their cheeks, teenagers in sneakers with their futures tied loose, teachers who had learned entire towns by first name. The librarian, who had once smuggled books into Noah's life, stood up to speak about probability and mercy and why swabs can be as holy as candles. I watched the stack of completed forms rise like a bread that knows what it is doing. Then he walked in. Every town has him, the man who turns a room into a test. Slick smile, louder voice, hands that want microphones even when none are offered. He took in the tables, the swabs, the freebies, our faces, and drew himself up for performance. "So this is the scam," he announced, as if narrating a play only he could see. "City people come out here to sell our genetics to whoever pays the most. How much are you making off this?" His finger pointed at me. "Off him?" It flicked toward Adrian the way a fly might land on a plate it didn't pay for. Chairs scraped, conversations stilled. Public humiliation has a distinctive chill, a draft that runs along your bones telling you to sit down, keep the peace, be smaller. I am done being small in rooms built to hold us. I stepped forward, voice even, hands visible. "My name is Emily Miles," I said, full, slow. "I am a nurse, a wife, and the person who will answer you without yelling. You are welcome to your suspicion. You are not welcome to lie." He smirked. "Lying would be saying this isn't a business." "It is a system," I said. "Volunteer run, audited, life-saving. No one here gets a cut for a Q-tip. What we get is time for the next family whose marrow tries to quit." He opened his mouth. I lifted a hand, polite, surgical. "I have receipts," I added, because I always do. I explained where the samples go, who owns the data, how consent is layered like safety glass. I named the fund the hospital committed to on that stage under those chandeliers, and how it would pay wages when a donor needed a week to heal. I did not drown him in details. I laid them down like stones across a creek. He switched tactics. They always do. "And when something goes wrong, who pays then?" He gestured toward Adrian as if he were a prop, and the room's temperature dropped another degree. "Sir," Noah said, stepping up to my shoulder like a wall that knows how to stand, "you are pointing at my brother. My advice is choose a different finger, or keep your hand in your pocket." A laugh bubbled in the bleachers, not cruel, relieved. The man's smile faltered. Leanne, from behind the clipboard tower, cleared her throat. "I left a boy once," she said into the space he had tried to claim. "I am here because I will not leave again. If you need to fight somebody, fight me. Everyone else is helping." The room shifted. Women looked at her with that quiet, unstoppable empathy that can lift cars. Men who would never admit to crying blinked hard. The man with the slick smile found himself suddenly without stage lights. I turned to the bleachers, to the kids in hoodies, to the retirees in volunteer vests. "Here is what happens," I said. "You swab. You join. Maybe you save a life in a year or 10. Maybe you never get a call. But tonight you decided you are the kind of person who wants to be asked." A hand went up, a teenager with a chipped black manicure and a bravery that made me love the future. "Can we sign up if we have tattoos?" "You can," I said. "Ink has never stopped anybody from being a good person." They laughed, the good kind. The line reformed. May clapped once like a starter's pistol and everything moved again. Noah leaned close. "You didn't even raise your voice." "I brought a bigger voice," I answered. "A room." When the drive ended, we counted what the day had given us. It was more than forms. It was a town remembering what its hands are for. The slick man was gone. The quartet played one last song and packed up as the custodian swept the same floor he had swept for decades, humming. I squeezed Adrian's shoulder. "You all right?" "I am better than all right," he said. "I watched people choose to be ready." On the way home, the mountains wore dusk like a coat. Leanne sat in the back seat, quiet, finally untied from her own story enough to be useful in someone else's. "Thank you," she said into the half-dark. Not to me, to the day. I let it land in the place I keep gratitude, and let it live there without asking it to do more. At the house, the porch light threw a circle on the steps. Inside, the answering machine blinked an old-fashioned red. Messages from St. Ilara's comms office about dates for the first paycheck reimbursements. A nurse checking in. A neighbor offering soup because that is what neighbors offer. I slept like a person who had done a right thing and had not made the world worse. In the morning, the local paper ran a photo of the gym with a headline that did not try to be clever. Swabs and spines. Below it, a short paragraph noting that the town had turned up. Under that, a quote. "Humiliation is a poor argument. We prefer evidence." They attributed it to a nurse. I made more coffee. Medicine teaches you to expect the pivot. You turn and the floor moves. Adrian had been steady for weeks. Labs good, appetite real, his laugh back to its original settings. Then, just after dawn on a Tuesday that was supposed to be ordinary, heat came roaring under his skin. I touched his forehead and felt the kind of temperature that makes nurses go very still for one heartbeat and then very fast forever after. We moved like choreography. Mask on, bag packed, vitals called in en route. The transplant unit took us with that brisk tenderness they reserve for people who have already learned too much. Adrian's fever was an alarm without a fire, an infection that had snuck past our sentries. It happens. You learn to say that to yourself as if it is a spell. Antibiotics dripped, monitors watched. We sat through hours that turned to taffy. Noah showed up with a paperback and a thermos of coffee that tasted like survival. Leanne brought a plant no one had asked for and set it in the window as if photosynthesis could sign on as staff. I gave Adrian the nurse look, the one that says you are safe enough to sleep, and he obeyed. By evening, the fever broke the way glass does not, cleanly, with relief. He shivered, then sighed, then opened his eyes with that wry tilt. "Managed to get a whole team to stare at me again," he murmured. "It is your best party trick," I said, and the room uncoiled a fraction. We were discharged with instructions that could have doubled as poetry. Wash, watch, listen, rest. On the way home, we stopped at Brookside Pharmacy, a small shop wedged between a bakery and a music store that sells 3 kinds of harmonicas and 1 kind of rhythm. I handed the pharmacist our prescription for a course of medication that cost more than any rent check either of us had ever written. I had the approval letter folded in my pocket like a talisman. The clerk, a young man with hair in rebellion and an attitude he wore like a jacket he had borrowed from someone cooler, scanned the paper and shrugged. "This isn't covered. Out of network." "It is," I said evenly. "We have a letter." I passed it over. He skimmed, smirked, and pushed it back. Doesn't show in the computer. Behind us, a line began to build in the ballet of impatience and fatigue that pharmacies everywhere know by heart. Adrian leaned on the counter, pale but game. I took a breath. Calm is contagious, but so is panic. I always choose the first virus. Please ask your pharmacist, I said to the clerk, keeping my tone light as a leveled beam. And please be kind. My husband has had a day. He rolled his eyes toward the ceiling and called, "Mark!" The pharmacist emerged, hair wild, eyes kind, hands already apologizing for his staff. I handed him the letter and the name of the person at the insurer who had signed it like a truce. He read, nodded, typed. "Found it," he said. "Apologies. New updates sometimes lag behind old systems." "Old systems," I echoed, soft so it wouldn't echo as anger. The clerk muttered, "People always think they're special." And there it was, the moment that turns a room. Leanne, behind us, drew herself up and said very clearly, "Special is a word for birthdays. This is a word for saved. Try that one." The line paused. The clerk flushed. Mark gave him a look that wrote a tiny performance review with his eyebrows and turned back to us. "We will run it through. It may still take a bit." "We can wait," I said, even though Adrian swayed. Noah slid an arm around his brother and held him with the absent-minded care of a person who has learned to keep buildings from falling. We stood there in a river of people who needed small mercies. A woman with a toddler offered Adrian her place in line. He declined with thanks. The toddler handed him a sticker anyway. It said "Brave" in glitter letters, and I almost lost it right there between vitamins and shampoo. When the bag arrived with our name and a price that did not feel like theft, Mark leaned over the counter. "I heard about the gala," he said. "Thank you. My partner donated marrow last year and missed a paycheck he could not afford to miss. I will be at the next meeting that decides those things. Bring 3 friends," I said. "And the clerk." Mark's mouth twitched. "I will bring him a chair." At home, we did the ritual. Pill, water, blanket, movie we have seen 10,000 times because the brain loves familiar maps when the body has been wandering. The fever did not return. The next morning, Adrian woke with color good enough to make me let my shoulders drop. The fraction they had been refusing to. Noah brought a t-shirt from Willow Ridge that said "Do Right" on the front and pretended it wasn't the softest thing he owned. Adrian put it on like a flag. Leanne knocked mid-morning, an offering on a tray. Soup. Real soup, not the kind from a can that needs an apology. She set it down and hovered, waiting for a verdict, hands occupied with wiping what was already clean. Adrian took a spoonful, closed his eyes, and nodded. She exhaled like a person who had been holding her breath for 20 years. "Sit," he said, patting the chair. "Tell me something true about when I was born." She did. Not the arguments, not the lack. The smell of rain against hot pavement the day she went into labor. The song that played on the radio in the cab, a half-remembered chorus about luck and leaving. The nurse who braided her hair so it would not tangle when the contractions took her away from herself. She told him the first name she had thought to give, and the second, and the third, none of which stuck because paper and will are 2 different religions. Adrian listened, spoon idle, eyes on the exact middle distance that lets memory walk closer without startling. When she finished, he said, "Thank you." He did not say anything else. Boundaries are a kind of love we have only recently learned to speak fluently. That evening, I wrote down the pharmacy's timeline, names, and numbers. I sent a tidy email to the insurer, thanking them for honoring their letter and asking for the system update that would keep others from being sandpapered in the same way. I CC'd the hospital's advocate and the newspaper reporter who liked receipts. I did not rage, I stacked facts. It is slower. It lasts longer. Before sleep, Adrian touched my wrist. "You never raise your voice," he said, half admiring, half accusing. "I save it," I answered, "for the rooms that try to pretend we are not in them." He smiled, the small one that always wins. "Keep saving it. I like how quiet winds feel. We had been home from the fever scare for 1 week when a letter without a return address arrived. Cream-colored, hand-addressed, the old-fashioned elegance of someone who remembers how to write their life into envelopes. I turned it over twice, listening for the rattle of trouble. It made no sound. Inside, a single sheet, neat cursive, black ink. My name is Mara. I think I might be your sister. The breath left my body and came back on its own time. I read the rest standing up because sitting felt too fragile. She had seen the photo in the paper from the registry drive. Noah's profile. Adrian's laugh. My hands mid-sentence. She recognized Noah's jaw, which she saw every morning in her own mirror. Her story was a different branch from the same trunk. A foster mother who stayed. A teenage year that tried to undo her. A decision to outwork the past at a community college with leaky ceilings. She wrote without drama. She used the word maybe 3 times in one paragraph, and it made me trust her. I called Noah. He came before the phone hit the cradle. He read the letter once, then again, then put it down on the table the way you put down a newborn. Gingerly, reverently, already protective. Mara, he said, tasting the name. He looked at me. We do this careful. Careful, I agreed. And brave. We called the number in the letter from the landline because that is the kind of call that belongs to a chord. A woman answered on the second ring, voice small with practiced caution. I introduced myself and then I said the word brother as if it had always been ours to use. The silence that followed was the kind that makes or unmakes lives. I would like to meet, Mara said, in a public place. Not because I am afraid of you, because I am afraid of what wanting might do. The cafe on Pine Street, I suggested. Saturday, late morning, the corner table by the fern. She laughed, surprised. You are a nurse, organized. Yes, I said, and I will bring muffins. Saturday arrived wearing a sky so blue it felt theatrical. The cafe windows steamed with stories. Noah and I took the corner table. Adrian sat at the next one, close enough to help, far enough to give air. Leanne stayed home, hands busy with flour and forgiveness. When the bell over the door rang, I knew it was her before I looked. Recognition is not only visual, it is patterned, ancestral, bone deep. Mara wore a thrift store dress that fit better than anything money makes fast. Her hair fell in a sheet, like a sentence that doesn't need editing. Her eyes were Noah's eyes. She walked toward us and stopped as if the floor had tilted. Noah stood. They stared. 2 people measuring the same horizon from opposite shores. I brought muffins, I said into the holy pause. Blueberry, and something with lemon that might fix your faith in small things. Mara laughed, then clapped a hand over her mouth, then cried, then laughed again. I don't know how to do this, she confessed. Neither do we, Noah said. We will make it up and try to do no harm. We talked. Small things first, because small things hold the roof up while the big ones move in. Where she worked, the cat who had chosen her apartment last winter and refused to leave, the garden she tended in cracked pots on a windowsill, then the questions that matter and cannot be forced. Do you want to know about Leanne? I asked. Yes, she said, and then quickly, no, and then finally, not yet. Do you need to hear about paperwork? Noah asked. No, she said. I need to hear about the way he laughs. She nodded toward Adrian, who pretended to study the menu like a man in witness protection. He laughs like a man who didn't know he could and then learned and refuses to forget, I said. He laughs like a decision. We ate muffins. We let the cafe's ordinary life hold us in place. After an hour that felt like a minute and a year, Mara reached into her bag and brought out an envelope. Inside was a photocopy of a birth record, edges faded, names smudged, dates solid. Her birthday, a mother's first name, a surname written and then crossed out and then written again, proof and question in one document. I want a test, she said, practical, cutting through longing. Not because I doubt, because after a life like this, it will feel like a blessing to have science say yes. Done, I said. We will do it today. I know a lab that will treat this like church. We walked together into a clinic that smelled like lemon and good scents. The phlebotomist smiled and swabbed and labeled with a handwriting that made me trust her more than any machine ever built. Results would take a while. Waiting would be a new room, we learned together. Back at the cafe door, Mara paused. If it is yes, she said, I don't need a mother. I think I need brothers, and a nurse who looks at me like I can carry a thing without breaking. You can, I said, because sometimes a prophecy is just the truth said out loud. Adrian stood then, came over, and held out his hand. I am the one who laughs, he said. She took his hand and squeezed. Good, she replied. I am the one who plans. Days later, the lab called with the answer our bones had already given us. Yes. Not shouted, stated. Noah put the phone on speaker, and we said nothing for a minute because silence can be praise if you let it. Then we called Mara and listened to her breathe, then laugh, then cry, then arrange lunch like this was not the biggest thing that had ever happened. It is a skill of survival to make holy things ordinary enough to live with. We met under the magnolia in the hospital courtyard because that tree had witnessed too much to be left out. Leanne asked to come. We said yes, with the same terms as before. Mara faced her and did not flinch. You do not owe me anything, she said. And I do not owe you anything. If we build something, we build it from the present. Leanne's face crumpled and then remade itself. Thank you, she said, for not making a demand out of a wound. They did not hug. They left room. It looked like respect. It looked like the opposite of performance. That night, our small house held more people than chairs. We sat on the floor, knees bumping, passing bowls, telling stories that reached into pasts without getting stuck there. Noah pointed at the knife he had given Adrian and told the tale of how it had kept him from opening the wrong doors. Mara showed a photo from a fair where she had won a goldfish and then nurtured it into absurd old age because she refused to let the world take one more thing from her. Adrian stood at the kitchen counter and cut lemon into water like a man performing a sacrament. By the time the moon found the porch, we were not healed. We were alive and aligned and learning. That is better. In bed, Adrian touched the pocket where he kept the folded copy of the letter that had said, "My name is Mara." Like a small, gentle explosion. Our life keeps expanding, he whispered. Good, I said. It makes more room for chairs. We fell asleep to the sound of Noah on the couch, snoring like a chainsaw in a distant, friendly forest, and the faint scratch of Mara turning pages on the pullout, a person who reads when she cannot rest. The house, our brave little house, took a deep breath and held. The hospital scheduled the policy vote for a late afternoon when power tends to nap and tempers try to perform. The boardroom had chandeliers that pretended generosity and a carpet that swallowed footsteps like secrets. Nameplates waited in a precise row, and a tray of cookies tried to bribe the future. We took our seats as if stepping onto ice. Adrian beside me, color steady. Noah one chair back, a quiet guard. Mara near the end, legal pad ready, already writing questions no one had asked yet. Leanne stayed in the hall, making paper cups of coffee appear in the hands of people who did not know they needed kindness. The chair cleared his throat and began reciting the agenda, with the calm of a man who trusts the agenda more than the truth. Item 1, recognition of donors. Item 2, registry expansion. Item 3, the fund for paid leave. Item 4, billing forgiveness for transplant gaps. Words like polished apples, each shining because they had been rubbed, not because they grew that way. Then the door opened and a late arrival breezed in, trailing cologne and entitlement. He was exactly the kind of man who confuses a microphone with a mirror. Old money face, new money watch, a surname that decorates buildings. When he spoke, he did not address the board. He addressed a camera that no one had set up. "Before we begin," he announced, "I would like to offer matching funds, in my family's name, for this noble initiative." He paused for applause that did not arrive on time. "On one condition. The fund will be called the Grant Lowell Legacy Fund for Life." Legacy. There it was, the golden leash. The room shifted, embarrassed on cue. The chair, too used to saying yes to checks, nodded like a wind-up toy. I stood before he could complete the motion. "Donors are welcome here," I said, voice even enough to cut glass. "Conditions that rename dignity are not." He turned toward me with the warmth of a winter door. "And you are?" "Emily Miles," I said. "Nurse. Wife. The woman whose husband lived because the people in this room learned to choose policy over theater." A ripple, small and satisfying. He smiled the way men smile when they are about to use a woman's full name as a leash. "Ms. Miles, surely you understand that philanthropy thrives on recognition." "Recognition is earned," I replied, "not purchased like a plaque. If your family wants to help, write the check and let the name on the fund be what it should be. Donor leave, not your lineage." He raised a brow. "You are very certain." "I am precise," I said. "There is a difference." Noah leaned forward, elbows on the table, voiced the warm edge of a blade. "Sir, you want your surname in a sentence about saving lives? Try this one. The Grant Lowell family stood down so the policy could stand up." The chair coughed into his fist. A man in the wrong century. Mara, calm as strategy, lifted her legal pad. "Point of order," she said. "We are not here to brand compassion. We are here to ratify a fund that keeps working families from being punished for doing the right thing." The board murmured. The chandelier light trembled as if reclaiming its wattage. The man's smile stiffened. "My family has supported this institution for generations." "Then you can add one more generation," I said, "by letting this change belong to the people it serves." Silence. That moment when money realizes a room has found its spine. The chair looked at the donor, at me, at the agenda. Then he did something I will grant him forever. He pivoted. "Thank you for the offer," he said carefully. "We will gratefully accept anonymous matching funds. The name stands as written. Donor Leave Fund." A few board members clacked before remembering they were supposed to look solemn. The donor sat, expression defaulting to neutral, the way men do when they have lost a round and need to calculate the next move without ruining their suit. We moved through the items with efficiency born of having almost lost them. Votes taken, ayes stacking. Registry expansion, adopted. Paid leave, adopted. Billing forgiveness, adopted with an implementation date that did not require resurrection. I spoke exactly when needed and not one heartbeat more. Adrian's hand found mine under the table and squeezed. "You did not raise your voice. You did not have to." Afterward, in the lobby, a junior board member with a face like a sincere poem rushed me. "I have never seen anyone tell a Grant Lowell no," she whispered, as if the walls might tattle. "It felt like someone opened a window." "Keep it open," I said. "Air is policy." We stepped into evening that smelled like rain, considering its options. Leanne pressed a coffee into my hand as if she had conjured it. "You were taller than all those chandeliers," she murmured. "I am trying to learn how to be that tall and that quiet at the same time." "Start by telling the truth once a day," I said, "even if it is only to yourself." At home, Adrian wrote the date in his small notebook, the one where he keeps our wins so fear cannot pretend they did not happen. "Today," he wrote, "the policy learned our names and forgot theirs." He underlined it twice with gentle, stubborn pressure. The state committee scheduled the worker protection hearing for a morning in a room that smelled like old coffee and new rules. The benches filled with people who live at the intersection of paycheck and hope. Teachers, linemen, nurses, warehouse crews, a barber with steady hands and a sign-up sheet for free cuts to job seekers. On the dais, elected officials adjusted microphones as if sound could earn them votes. We had come to ask for a law, paid leave for marrow and organ donors statewide, codified, enforceable, not a favor granted by generous bosses, but a right. My union rep squeezed my shoulder. "Be calm," she whispered. "Be specific." Both are my native language. They called my name. I walked to the table as if stepping into a storm I had invited. I stated my name for the record, and then told the story without perfume. Adrian's diagnosis, the search that found Noah, the transplant, the gala with promises, the fund we pried loose, the pharmacy that almost sandpapered us down. Each fact with a receipt attached. Each outcome tied to choices, not miracles. "People are generous," I said, "until policy punishes them for it. Then we lose donors to rent due and children who need shoes. This is not a budget line. This is a moral line." Questions came. Helpful, sure. Skeptical, glossy. Then a representative with a smile tacked on like an afterthought leaned in with the practiced cadence of a man who likes being quoted. "Ms. Miles, what do you say to small businesses who cannot afford one more mandate? Should they pay for your husband's health?" I did not flinch. "Sir, they already do. We all do. We pay in funerals, in unfilled chairs, in training new workers because old ones died who did not have to. This bill saves money because keeping people alive is cheaper than burying them. And, this matters more, it is right." He tilted his head. "Fine words, but anecdotes do not make policy." "Then let us talk numbers," I said. And yes, I spoke the words as words, because that is our agreement with language. Every donor who cannot afford time off is one less match in a registry. Every saved life preserves a taxpayer, a parent, a neighbor. We are not asking employers to carry a boulder. We are asking the state to build a path so businesses can walk without stumbling. Noah sat behind me, a steady mountain. Mara beside him, pen a metronome. Adrian in the aisle seat, mask on, eyes bright. His presence an argument with a pulse. Leanne tucked in the back, hands prayerful without praying at anyone. An employer testified next, a woman who owns a machine shop and knows the weight of payroll. "I cannot lose my best people for weeks," she said, "but I also cannot lose them forever. Put this in a fund everyone pays into the way we do for unemployment. Let me keep my workers and my conscience." The barbershop owner spoke. The teacher spoke. A young warehouse driver stood and talked about a cousin who died waiting. A retired judge, of all unlikely angels, explained that the state already subsidizes cruelty in a dozen quiet ways. Perhaps for once it could subsidize kindness. Then the surprise witness arrived, late enough to cause a small breeze. The man from the chandelier room, the donor with the heavy surname. Cameras perked up as if fed. He took the microphone with the caution of a person who has recently been taught where to stand. "My family has often believed our checks were enough," he said, voice thinner than at the gala. "They are not. I support this bill. I will personally match the first year of the fund to speed implementation. And," he swallowed, "I will do so without my name on anything." A murmur moved through the room like weather. He glanced toward me. I did not nod. I did not smile. I stared at the clock on the back wall that had refused to blink for the entire hearing and let the moment register in my bones. The committee took a recess and returned with a vote set like a dinner table for a holiday that finally means something. A majority aye. One abstention from a man who looked like he collects antique maps and modern resentments. The chair announced the measure would move to the full chamber with a favorable recommendation. Applause began, then properly turned into a low cheer because the benches were tired and Joy wants to be efficient too. Outside, reporters aimed microphones like curious birds. I gave them one sentence and no more. We are not special. We are proof that systems should be built for ordinary people to survive extraordinary days. Then I went home to refill pillboxes and fold laundry that had been waiting for a day like this. That evening, our small house hosted a celebration that looked like soup and warm bread and a playlist we argued about without malice. Noah sat on the porch, feet on the railing like a teenager might if he had been given a childhood that allowed such luxury. Mara mapped the next steps on a napkin, arrows and deadlines and names of committee members who would need the soft pressure of a call at the right hour. Adrian leaned back, eyes closed, breath even. Leanne brought pie, set it down, and did not try to claim a chair that was not yet hers. We were not done. We were different. That is a victory, I trust. A storm rolled in without music, just a low animal growl and a sky that forgot its color. By late afternoon, the grid hiccuped, then staggered, then went down. St. Ilara shifted to generators. Our block went dark except for candles that remembered their job. Silence arrived, then sirens. The hospital called for volunteers trained in triage and calm. I kissed Adrian's forehead, checked his meds, left him with Noah and Mara, and drove through rain that tried to push the car backward. In the triage tent, headlamps made halos of the prepared. Nurses are daylight with legs. We moved like it. No elevators, no easy monitors, no automatic doors opening with gentle sighs. We went analog, paper charts, pulse checks, eyes that learned to be instruments long before machines earned their trust. Families held flashlights over loved ones like lanterns on ancient roads. A surgeon, sleeves rolled, voice low, thanked a janitor for becoming the most important man in the building by knowing where each spare battery slept. In the lobby, I found a scene that still feels like grace when I rewind it in my mind. The donor with the heavy surname stood shoulder to shoulder with the machine shop owner from the hearing, hauling cases of water like penance and partnership. The barbershop owner set up a chair and started giving free cuts to anxious kids whose hair had become a problem they could solve. A teenager with chipped black nail polish, my favorite kind of future, directed traffic with a whistle and a bright vest, queen of the corridor. And Leanne? She set up a makeshift phone bank for family updates, voice soft steel. "He is stable," she said 100 times. "She is resting." She took names, numbers, fears, and gave back sentences that held. She did not demand redemption. She did the work. Hours stretched, then folded. We lost no one we should have kept. When the power returned, it did so sheepish, like a dog who had wandered and was sorry, in the way eyes can be sorry. The hospital exhaled, the city blinked, and the storm went wherever storms go when they are done proving themselves. We gathered in the cafeteria with its democracy of tired faces and ate whatever had survived the blackout. Someone started applause, and we let it happen. Not a showy ovation, a warm pat on the back of a long, shared day. In the corner, the teenager with the whistle fell asleep sitting up, chin on chest, vest slumped like a small flag after a parade. I drove home under streetlights that had remembered their calling. Adrian waited on the porch with a blanket, a mug, and that look that makes my bones soften from the inside out. "You smell like rain and victory," he said. "We kept the lights on without plugs," I answered. "People are good when someone gives them the job title." Noah handed me a note left by the neighbor whose port you can always borrow. "We have a generator. Your freezer is safe. Also, the cat is fine." I laughed, a tired, delighted sound that belongs to kitchens after storms. We went inside and the house held us like a well-made chair. Mara spread her napkin map on the table again, redrew deadlines with the impatience of a woman who expects institutions to move as quickly as she does. Leanne washed dishes we had already washed, a prayer without religion. Adrian touched the locket I never take off and said, "You did another big day." "We did it," I corrected, letting the pronoun carry its rightful weight. The next morning, the paper ran a headline that made me snort coffee. "Blackout brings out the best." The article misnamed 3 people and credited the executive with an idea he had not had. but it also printed a photo of the janitor laughing with the surgeon, and that made up for many sins. I cut the photo out and taped it to the fridge, below a crayon drawing of a magnolia someone's child had sent. Our shrine to ordinary miracles grew by one square of newsprint. By afternoon, the legislature posted the schedule for the full vote. The hearing had made ripples that wanted to be waves. We texted, called, counted. The machine shop owner organized a caravan. The barber promised free cuts on the Capitol steps. The teenager with the whistle asked if she could skip class to attend. "You can," I wrote. "Tell them the nurse said this is civics." We slept early, not because we were done, but because we were disciplined. Tomorrow would ask for our voices again. Tonight, the house hummed. Blue curled on the rug at Noah's feet, finally claiming us with dog certainty. The magnolia outside lifted its leaves to a sky that meant to be kind. And inside, we put our story down for a minute and let quiet carry it. Here is what we built when the world tried to narrow us to machines and forms. A room with enough chairs, for brothers found and sisters named. For a mother who learned how to say sorry without asking to be saved by it. For a nurse who uses her voice the way surgeons use scalpels, precisely, to remove what should not be there. Policy shifted because ordinary people refused to perform and chose to insist. A donor with a heavy surname learned that legacy is not what you stamp on a plaque. It is what you step back from so others can stand. A machine shop owner taught a legislature how to fund kindness without bankrupting sense. A barbershop became a civic tool. A teenager with chipped polish reminded officials what leadership looks like under fluorescent lights. At home, the porch chair Adrian made still knows our weight. Noah's laughter lives here now. The deep kind that arrives when a man trusts his own luck. Mara's maps paper our refrigerator, goals made domestic so they cannot slip away. Leanne's hands are steadier. She does not reach for what is not offered, and in that restraint, she has found a path that is finally hers. If you are listening with a letter in your pocket that begins, "My name is," or a denial that says, "Not covered," or a diagnosis that eats language for breakfast, hear me. Systems can be moved. Not by rage alone, by receipts, by rooms, by refusing to be humiliated into silence. Evidence is a kind of love when you use it to keep strangers alive. I used to think survival was private. It is not. It is choir work. Bring your voice, your vote, your swab, your stubborn kindness. Sit where there is no chair and become furniture. The world will rearrange around you because it must. Breathe. We are not finished. We are different. That is the win we carry forward. If this story steadied your hands or sharpened your spine, drop a comment with the moment that hit you hardest. The boardroom no, the hearing yes, the blackout, or the letter that began with a name. Like the video so more people find their room. Subscribe for the next long story where humiliation loses and policy learns to stand up.